Good evening, YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports with another football video, and today I'm going over my NFL power rankings for Week 12 of the 2021 NFL season. This week was a crazy week of football, so I'm just going to get right into it. First off, if you want to subscribe, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Only 11% of you are actually subscribed, so if you enjoy the content and you want to see more content like it, make sure to hit that subscribe button. With that, I'm going to get right into the video. First off, as always, we have the dumpster fire. I have the Lions at 32, the Jets at 31, the Jaguars at 30, and Houston Texans at 29. I think this is the highest they've been all season. The Jaguars have advanced to 0-9-1 with another slightly more impressive loss than usual this week. Last week they tied the Steelers. This week they only lost by 3 to the Browns. So the Jets still have 2 wins on the season, so the Jaguars, it's the Jets. The Jets and the Jaguars, they just played bad games as usual. And the Texans won. They beat the Titans. They're still one of the 4 worst teams in the league, because the Jets have also beaten some random good teams, including the Titans. But, yeah, no, it was a good win. It was a good win. They deserve to be the best of the worst this week. In the bad category, we have a couple newcomers. We have the Falcons and the Seahawks. Last week it was the Bears and a couple others. The Bears are 28, the Seahawks are 27, and the Falcons are 26. I was very optimistic about the Seahawks all season. I had them in the low teens most of the season. I had them in the high 20s right before Wilson came back. Then he got shut out. I still had them a little higher than they should have been, like 24, 25. You can't really put them any higher than this at this point, though. Like, I know they played the Packers and the Cardinals, but their offense has done nothing at all. They lost to Colt McCoy. Like, it's just not good. Their defense was bad to begin with, and their offense was making up for it. But now that Russell Wilson's back and he's not performing, he's having the worst season of his career. He's lost 3 games in a row. It's just bad. And the Falcons have been outscored 68-3 in their last 2 games. So, yeah, they're not. I don't care if they beat the Saints. They don't deserve to be any higher than this. Next category is not their year. We have the Giants, the Panthers, and the Dolphins. The Dolphins have won 3 in a row now. They're 4-7. The Panthers are 4-6, and the Giants are 3-6. The Giants have not played yet this week. They're going to be playing Tampa tomorrow. But even if they lose that game, I'm not really going to put them any lower. And if they win, then they really wouldn't go out of this tier. Honestly, it would just be a fluke win in my opinion. If they won, then they would obviously be above the Dolphins. But the Giants have had a very confusing season. They beat the Saints and the Raiders and someone else, but they've lost every other game. So they've just been inconsistent in leaning towards bad. The Panthers have just been inconsistent, period. They'll win against the Saints and then they'll get demolished. They won against the Cardinals last week, granted against Colt McCoy, and then Cam Newton finally played a full week. He had a pretty decent stat line, and then they still lost to Washington. So I had the Panthers at 19, I think, last week. I was optimistic that Cam Newton would turn their season around, and if they had won this week, they probably would have been 16, 17, 18-ish. But if they lost with their first week of Cam Newton back, and it wasn't to a good team. It was not a good look for them. And Miami, like I said, they're on a 3-game winning streak. One of those was the Ravens, which was an impressive win, but the other 2 were the Jets and the Texans. So you can give them credit to the point that they beat the Ravens. But the Jets and the Texans still aren't impressive wins. So I'm curious to see how they do in the coming weeks. Outside of contenders, we have Washington, the Broncos, the Browns, and the Raiders. Broncos, Browns, and Raiders have all been, at some point in time, in the top 15. The Browns and Raiders have both been in the top 10. The Broncos have not been anywhere near the top 10. That being said, the Raiders and Browns are tanking, and the Raiders are tanking hard. The Raiders started 3-0, they're currently 5-5. That means that they've won 2 of their last 7 games. And they've lost 2. so many teams. They lost to the Bears at one point. They got demolished 2 weeks in a row by AFC rivals, the Bengals and the Chiefs. Demolished both of those games. They're just on a path downward. And the Browns aren't any better. The Browns barely beat the Lions this week. They got demolished by the Patriots last week. They're not looking like a playoff team right now. And they are 6-5 because they had a pretty decent start to the season, but they're just not turning like they're just not looking like a playoff team right now. The Broncos have been hanging in there ever since they started off 3-0. They started off 3-0. They dropped to 3-3, and then they tried to fight a little bit, but they're back to 5-5. I expect them to continue going lower because they really don't have an impressive team. They have barely any quality wins. Their first 3 wins of the season came to the Jets, the Jaguars, and the Texans, and since then, their only quality win was against Dallas, and that was clearly a fluke game. Washington started off with 2 wins, then they lost a bunch in a row, and then they just got 2 in a row. One of them being to Tampa, and one of them being to the Carolina Panthers. This week, a lot of people thought that Cam Newton was going to come back and play really well for the Panthers, and Washington came in and they got the job done. They were the better team. So props to Washington. They've been playing good football the last couple of weeks. Playoff hopefuls, we have the Saints, the Eagles, the 49ers, and the Steelers. At 18, we have the Saints. The Saints started off 5-2. They're currently 5-5. They've lost 3 games in a row after their win against Tampa. And not all of those games they should have lost. Last week they played the Titans. This week they got demolished by the Eagles. Their season is slowly going downhill, probably because I know Trevor Siemian has been playing well, but he hasn't been playing well enough. Because something was clearly working with Jameis Winston. They were 5-2 with Jameis Winston, and now they're 0-3 with Trevor Siemian. I'm not saying he's the problem, because I was told last week by Saints fans that Trevor Siemian is not the problem, but something's the problem there. And they need to turn it around if they want any chance of making the playoffs. The Eagles, on the other hand, are 5-6. They have 1 more loss than the Saints, but they're trending upwards. They've had a few good wins in a row recently. This week they beat the Saints 40-29. Last week they had another strong win. The Eagles are playing good football, and at the beginning of the season, I thought they're going to be terrible. I really did. Then they surprised me with how competitively they played. The last 4 weeks have all been really good. They demolished the Lions. They played a really close game against a strong team. They beat the Chargers, and this week they beat the Saints. So, yeah. Eagles are playing solid. They almost beat the Chargers. They won last week against a strong team. This week they beat the Saints. At 16, we have the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers are a team that I underestimated. They dropped to 3-5, and I thought that they were going to continue to drop. They beat the Rams last week, and then this week they won a pretty straightforward game. I believe they played the Jets. So the 49ers, they beat the Rams. Very strong win, 5-5. I think that they are in a decent position to get the 7th seed in the NFC. I think that the Eagles have a better schedule to get the 7th seed, but the 49ers are in a decent position right now. I think that the NFC 7th seed race is currently between the Saints, the Eagles, and the 49ers. So we'll see how these teams start figuring out their pecking order over the next couple of weeks. And at 15, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers started off 1-3. They advanced to 5-3. They proceeded to tie with the Lions, giving the Lions their only non-loss of the season. And then this week, they were blown out by the Chargers through 3 quarters. Like, after the 3rd quarter, the game was over. So yeah, I don't really know what to think about them. I think that they are a stronger team they're more consistent than the 49ers, the Saints, and the Eagles. They started their comeback sooner in the season. They're currently 5-4-1, so I think that they have a slight edge in the consistency factor on the other 3 teams. but their last few games have not been impressive. They barely beat the Bears. They tied with the Lions, and then they lost this week. So, 15, but it's a cautious 15. I think that the 49ers or the Eagles could definitely be above them for this week. Moody Teenagers. We have the Bengals, the Chargers, the Ravens, and the Rams. Bengals got a good win this week against the Raiders, kicking them while they're down. The Bengals have improved to 6-4. They had a pretty scary run there where they were 5-2. They lost 2 games in a row. One of them to the Jets, and then one of them last week. And this week they went in there. They got it done against the Raiders, and they're now 6-4. They're not in great position for the playoffs, I don't think, because I think that they're a little inconsistent. But they definitely have potential to make the playoffs. Chargers at 6-4. Also, I think that they're in a slightly better position to make the playoffs. They beat the Steelers this week, pretty dominant win. But their last few weeks haven't been too impressive. They lost to the Vikings, they lost to the Patriots, and they got demolished by the Ravens 34-6. So, the Chargers have not had the best past few weeks, but this week brought them back up a little bit. This week was a strong win against a strong opponent, and the only reason why they're below the Ravens is because the Ravens beat them by so much. But the Chargers, I think, are playing slightly better football at this moment in time. The Ravens barely beat the Bears this week. I really wanted the Bears to win that game. I really did. Because if the Bears ended up winning, then the Patriots would be in second place in the AFC. The Bears did not win, so the Patriots are in third place. But, the Ravens have been playing terrible football the last few weeks. They barely beat the Bears this week. They lost to Miami last week. The week before, they played a pretty sketchy game. Like, the Ravens just haven't been playing well recently. They just haven't. And I think that they're stronger than 12, but they really haven't shown it over the last few weeks. So I really can't put them any higher than that. They're currently winning their division, and I have them highest in their division on this list. But they're going to win their division. I think it's pretty obvious they're going to win their division at this point, especially with the Steelers losing today. But it's just been a rough past few weeks. And the Rams, the same thing. The Rams are clearly a good team. They clearly have had success this season. They're 7-3. But their last few weeks just haven't been there. Like, they got demolished by the 49ers. They got demolished by the Titans. They just haven't been the Rams the last couple of weeks. And I know they're on a bye week this week, and they'll probably come back next week and play really good football. But for right now, there's other teams that are playing better football than the Rams. At number 10, we have the Buffalo Bills. And this is another team that really has not been playing well. The Bills and the Tampa. This is when we're starting to see some of those teams that were in the high top 10s start to drop as they start being mortalized. The Bills the past few weeks barely beat Miami. Last week they barely beat Miami. Then they lost to the Jaguars. Then they brutalized the Jets, and then they lost this week to the Colts. They got brutalized by the Colts. So, the Bills really have had a terrible last 4 weeks. They barely beat the Dolphins, who are 4-7 now. Would be 5-6 if they had come away with a win in that game. They lost to the Jaguars, giving them their second win of the season. They beat the Jets, a bad team, and then they lost to the Colts in their first real matchup in a while, giving the Colts a 6-5 record and allowing the Colts to actually have pretty decent playoff chances. They've been playing bad football recently. If they start turning it around, I'll put them higher, but for right now, I can't put them out of the top 10, but they really can't be any higher than 10. At number 9, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs have lost 2 games in a row. The last 3 weeks they lost, and then they had a bye week. Brady always wins after a loss, and he always wins after a bye week. So he had both in a row. He had both at the same time, and he still lost. to Washington. So yeah, Tampa's in timeout. If they beat the Giants tonight or tomorrow night, I'm not really going to be too impressed. It's the Giants; they should win that game. So yeah, that won't be too impressive in my opinion. I think 9 is a solid spot for them until they can start showing that they can still play football against good teams. They have some injuries, granted. They do have injuries, but they're 5-0 with Antonio Brown and 1-3 without. At number 8, we have the Minnesota Vikings, and at 7, we have the Indianapolis Colts. The Vikings and Colts have skyrocketed over the past 2 weeks. The Vikings beat the Chargers and the Packers. The Vikings are the hottest team in the NFL right now. They beat the Chargers and they beat the Packers. Aaron Rodgers had 390 yards and 4 touchdowns, and the Vikings won. Yeah, Minnesota has played good football all season. They haven't lost any games by more than 1 score. I don't think I've ever had them outside of the top 16, even when they were 2 and whatever. So yeah, they're playing their best football right now. They're 5-5. I think that they have the best chance to get the 6th seed in the NFC. I think that they're favorites for the 6th seed in the NFC, and I'm excited to see where the rest of their season goes. And at 7, we have the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are 6-5. They started off, I believe, 1-4. So they've won 5 of their last 6 games. And this week, they capped it off by beating Buffalo 41-15. The Colts are another team where all of their losses came in close games to good teams. They just had a really rough record to start off the season because they had a really rough schedule, and now they're playing their best football at the right time. They're 6-5, and I think that they are in pretty decent shape to get the 7th seed in the AFC. Super Bowl contenders, we have the Patriots at 6, the Titans at 5, and the Cowboys at 4. The Cowboys and the Titans are on a slight... The Titans are going up and down at the same time. They're going up because they had a 6-game winning streak. They're going down because they're missing Derrick Henry. The Patriots are on a 5-game winning streak, but it hasn't been to too many impressive teams. They beat the Chargers, which is a good win. They beat the Browns, which is a decent win. The Browns win was good because of the score. And they've outscored their opponents 175-50 over the last 4 weeks. Patriots are going to play the Titans this week coming up. I wanted to put the Patriots at 5, but I really couldn't do it unless they beat the Titans. If they beat the Titans, the Patriots will probably be at 5 or 4 next week, but I really couldn't do that until I saw the game. If they play the Titans well, they'll probably stay in the top 10, even if they lose. But if they lose, they're definitely not staying at 6. I really didn't want to put us here because I didn't want to jinx anything, but I really didn't think that any of the teams in the lower category were playing better football right now, except for maybe the Vikings. At 5, we have the Titans. The Titans have the second best record in the NFL right now. They're 8-3. They lost this week to the Texans. Terrible loss. But the Titans are weird because their only losses are to the Cardinals, the best team in the league, and the Texans and the Jets, the 2 worst teams in the league. They haven't lost to any other team except for the best and the 2 worst. Those are the only losses. And Derrick Henry's injured. So yeah, he's been injured for about 3 weeks. He's killing my fantasy team. But, yeah. And then that's the reason why they're below the Cowboys. The Cowboys have not had a good stretch the last few weeks. They brutalized the Falcons, but that's the sandwich bread. That's the meat in the middle of the 2 sandwich pieces where they lost. They scored 9 points on Kansas City and got demolished by the Broncos. So yeah, they played a really strong game against the Falcons, a bad team, and they played bad games against 2 decent opponents the last couple of weeks. The Cowboys, I think that 4 is a solid spot for them right now, but I don't know if the way that they're playing currently is going to be able to be maintained, and that's my concern with them. At number 3, we have Kansas City. This category is called They're Back because they look like they're back. They beat the Cowboys 19-9 this week. Last week they played a really, really, really strong game against the Raiders. They look like they're back. They look like Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes looks like Patrick Mahomes, and they're playing solid, safe, consistent football. That's the key. Solid, safe, consistent football. They look like Kansas City. They're 7-4. They're the 4th seed in the AFC right now because of tiebreakers. I expect them to quickly climb from the 4th seed. And obviously in the NFL's elite, we have the Cardinals and the Packers. Cardinals are 9-2. The Packers are 8-3. These teams have showed very few flaws this season. The Packers lost Week 1 to the Saints, the weirdest team in the league. Since then, the Cardinals have lost 2 games, one of them being to the Packers, and the other one being with Colt McCoy at quarterback. The Packers have lost 2 games, one of them being to the Vikings, who are the hottest team in the NFL right now, and the other one being with their backup quarterback in. So both of these teams have only lost 1 game since Week 1 with their starting quarterback. They're the 2 strongest teams in the league. They have beaten all of the other strong teams they played against. And I think that anyone who says that the Cardinals and Packers are not the top 2 teams in the league right now are kidding themselves. These are the 2 strongest teams in the league. So yeah, those are my power rankings for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. I'm sorry that this video was so long. I just there was just a lot to take in this week, so this video is a little bit longer than usual, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Anyways, subscribe if you are new. Again, only 11% of you are subscribed. And I'm going to try to be more consistent with uploads this week. I had a really, really, really long week last week, so my uploads were a little inconsistent, but I'll try to get better for this week. So, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.